Never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. It's probably the most perfect way to describe last night. Good morning, gang. Happy Friday. It's the day after. Last night was the debate. I know from comments on yesterday's video, a lot of you said you weren't going to watch it. I will tell you this. You're probably going to want to go back and watch it today. It was the most horrifying example of presidential politics ever. I mean, this made Richard Nixon in the gray suit and the sweating profusely look like he was the world's greatest statesman. Now, I'll say this. Trump had a good debate. It wasn't great. There were a couple of times that he almost got goaded into slopping in the mud with Joe. But he pulled himself out. I will give complete credit to Jake Tapper and Dana Bash from CNN. They actually did, in my opinion, a very, very good job at moderating the debate. They did not stick their 2 cents in. They did not do anything but answer the questions and keep the volley going back and forth. So kudos to CNN. Yeah, I know you never thought you'd say that in the world, but I've always said I will give credit where credit was due, and they did a good job. I'm betting this morning that the handlers of Joe are wishing they did exactly what everybody was accusing them of doing. I'm betting they are wishing they had Joe doped up, drugged up on Adderall or cocaine or Mountain Dew or Red Bull or something. Joe came off last night as a doddering old dementia patient. Everything that social media, the right-wing media has accused Joe of last night, or has accused Joe of, last night, he proved beyond any reasonable doubt he is not capable of running this country. In front of the world last night, Joe committed political suicide. And I said yesterday that tonight, meaning last night, would be the day the Grim Reaper showed up for Joe's career. Oh, he came. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse showed up with him and said, "Climb aboard, buddy. You're done." I'm not going to go into too many details on the debate itself. You can go watch that. A lot of you did. The whole Joe lying throughout it was just insane. I mean, I was live tweeting as it was going, and I was trying to keep up with Joe's lies. I couldn't, okay? I mean, Joe repeated the lie of Charlottesville, even though that's been in the news this week, has been debunked. Joe repeated the lie that Trump told everybody to inject themselves with bleach. Joe repeated the lie that Trump called military vets losers. Joe repeated the lie that his son died in Iraq. Then he came back and tried to correct himself and said his son died from Iraq. I mean, it was over and over. Word salad. Oh, man. I think Joe's debate prep was done with Kamala Harris. It was blah, 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 the whole way through. I mean, it was just bad. You know, the New York Post headline, "Mumble in the Jungle," is what this morning's paper is. It culminated at the end with Joe challenging Biden, or Joe challenging Trump to a driving, not car, but hitting a golf ball contest when they asked about your physical shape, your mental stability. Joe completely lost it. Joe couldn't even keep his story straight there. He said within a period of 30 seconds, he said he was a 6 handicap, and then he said he was an 8 handicap. It was just ugly. It was bad to watch. All the comments about elder abuse were completely on display yesterday. All the trips up the stairs, trips on stage, walking away, shaking hands with people that aren't there, and all of them trying to say those were cheap fakes. No. Joe proved last night that he ain't whole. Okay. And again, I remind you, this is the man who has somebody walking around next to him within a few feet with the nuclear football. It was bad. I got very little sleep. I stayed up last night after the debates. I was planning on going to bed right after the debate. And it was so bad, I wanted to see what the spin was put on by the liberal media. To my shock and surprise, CNN crucified Joe, MSNBC crucified Joe, the Huffington Post crucified Joe. It was everywhere. Apparently, there were meetings last night because donors were calling instantly during the debate to pull their donations from Joe, that they couldn't support this guy. And supposedly there were meetings at the Oval Office, without Joe in attendance, on how to replace him. That changes everything. Joe proved last night that he has no business running the United States. But I want to walk through what happens from here, because, of course, there's a whole lot of misinformation and disinformation that's going to be put out by people that have no idea on how the American political system works. You know, hell, half the country couldn't pass an 8th grade civics test. That's why they vote Democrat. So what could possibly happen here? Well, let me give you this. They can't just decide, Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries. They can't just decide, Joe, you're no longer president. It doesn't work that way, okay? They will strongly try to convince Joe to resign. That would be the most obvious thing. They will strongly try to convince Joe to drop out of the race. But right now, Joe is the presumptive nominee. Okay? Remember, we went through primary season, and Joe Biden was the one who got the majority of the votes from the public to be the Democrat nominee. Now, of course, he's not the nominee yet because they haven't had their convention. They haven't certified the nomination, just like Trump has not been certified as the Republican nominee. So unless Joe steps down, Joe will be president at least through the convention. Here's where it gets sticky, especially the way the Democrats do things. Remember how their party sets things up. You have superdelegates, ones who are not obligated to vote for anybody that the people voted for. Now, the state delegates, sure, they are obligated up to a point, okay, because you still have bad faith delegates. There's a lot of phone calls going on this morning. I can guarantee you that. They won't nominate Joe Biden. So Joe Biden is a lame duck. So that begs the question as to who are the Democrats going to run? And this is where you have huge, huge problems, at least for them. And entailed huge problems for Donald Trump, because the election completely changed yesterday. All the campaigning that's done, all the polls that you have seen, all the leads in swing states mean absolutely zip this morning. Because even though Joe Biden came out and told Joe, you did a really great job, you knew all the facts. No, he didn't. Joe lied his way through the entire debate. Even though Donna Brazile said, cool your jets, Joe Biden's going to be the nominee, nobody with two active brain cells believes that. Okay. The funny part was, and if you go watch the debate, or if you've already watched it, a poll done afterwards, yes, said Trump won the debate handily, 67-33. There were 33% of the American public, after watching that nightmare last night, think Joe Biden won that debate. That tells you right there how poisoned and polluted some people's minds are. That he could have literally pulled a gun out and shot Trump on the stage, and they'd be like, that'd be okay. I mean, that's how bad it is. But let's get into this. So let's start from the top down as to most likely, least likely, and potential problems in the wings. Okay? So let's start with the obvious. If Joe resigns today, like he should, that makes Kamala Harris the de facto president. The Democrats have a huge problem with Kamala Harris. She's less popular than Joe Biden. So they don't want her. But the problem they have is if they push her to the side, all the black females, a very important demographic for the Democrats, are all going to go, what are you doing? Her turn was next. And they could risk alienating a huge voting bloc that they need to win. Kamala Harris has spent at least the last 10 years posturing to make herself more important than she actually is. I mean, we all know in the primaries in 2020, she never even made it to the primaries. She dropped out before Iowa and New Hampshire. Nobody liked her. She got picked because she was a diversity hire. That was it. And now she thinks she's going to ride that to the White House. There's a lot of people that believe she should be able to. The Democrats are not going to pick Kamala Harris, but that's the fallout that they have. So who's next most likely? Well, I know who you think I'm going to say, but I'm going to really throw you a curveball here. Gretchen Whitmer, and what is his name? Just slipped from my mind just as I was about to say it. Josh Shapiro. You probably don't even know who Josh Shapiro is, but I will tell you this. His name is going to get thrown around a whole lot here in the next few days as to who's going to succeed Joe Biden. Why? Well, Gretchen Whitmer is the governor of Michigan. Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. Those are two very crucial states in the election. Now, I've said many times before, if you go look at an electoral map, the states that Trump is leading in handily, the states that Biden's leading it, Red states, blue states, the ones that, Tennessee, you don't have to worry about us voting for a Democrat. It's not going to happen, okay? Just like California, you don't have to worry about them electing a Republican. It's not going to happen, okay? You got those. So you come down to the swing states, or what are considered swing states, at least for this election. Well, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, okay? If Trump wins Georgia and Pennsylvania, the election's over, okay? It doesn't matter about the other 4. But against Joe Biden, Trump is leading in all 6 of them. So why don't the Democrats go, let's make a ticket of, either way, whichever way you want to go, Josh Shapiro and Gretchen Whitmer, and instantly flip Pennsylvania and Michigan. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. People in Michigan hate Gretchen Whitmer, yada, yada, yada. I get you, okay? Except you elected her, okay? So obviously there's more people in Michigan that like her than hate her. So that would flip those 2 states blue very quickly. So that's the next most likely group pairing, if you will. Then you start getting down to some of the maybes but doubtfuls. Gavin Newsom, nah. Gavin Newsom's got way too much baggage from California. He's got way too much bad press. He completely bombed that debate he had with Ron DeSantis about 6 months ago. That would be easy pickings for Trump. Just pictures of feces in the street in San Francisco. Talk about the highest homeless rate. Talk about the highest unemployment rate. To talk about the highest crime rate in the country, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Yeah, it ain't going to be Gavin Newsom. People have bandied about the name of Hillary Clinton. Amazing how she's all of a sudden creeping up in the press a little bit again. She's got this new book out. She's being interviewed. It's one of these, hey guys, don't forget about me. I'm still here. You think a Trump-Biden rematch would get ugly? Let's talk about a Trump-Hillary rematch. The American people said they didn't like Hillary the first time. And I know somebody said, well, she got 3 million more votes. Okay, fine. Take California out, and that ain't true. In the other 49 states, she didn't get more in the popular vote either. No, the American public does not have the appetite for Hillary Clinton. Then, of course, you all get Big Mike, and, she was in the news, he was in the news, whatever you want to say, that not going to campaign for Biden because he insulted, or he's somehow not talking to Hunter Biden's ex-wife, who Big Mike befriended when they were in the White House, and yada yada. So he doesn't like the way that Joe's treating her. Yeah, okay. I don't think there's much to it. Michelle Obama has always talked about her distaste for politics, so I wouldn't worry about that. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. But I mean, if there's any names to pay attention to right now, it's Gretchen Whitmer and Josh Shapiro. At least in my opinion. Now, did Trump win? Is this a boon for Trump? No, this is a disaster for Trump, okay? Because now all the campaign prep he's done, all the campaigning he has done for the last year plus is for nothing. Because everything you said about Joe Biden isn't about Gretchen Whitmer, isn't about Josh Shapiro. You could tie it all to Kamala Harris, no question. But like I said, I don't see somehow the Democrats are going to get away from Kamala Harris. If the Democrats keep Joe Biden after last night, color me completely shocked. Somebody else will come in. Trump is going to have to redo his entire campaign strategy. Because what he's going to run against now, and this is going to be really interesting, because mind you, the primaries are over. It's not like they're going to go do whole new ones. If Joe steps down, gets Arkansided, whatever, whoever the Democrat nominee is will not have been picked by the people. I just want you to think about that for a second. If Joe is not the nominee, their candidate will not be somebody who was chosen by the American people. And who's the threat to democracy again? Remind me that one. Trump's got his hands full with this. You can guarantee there's people on the Trump team that are digging through the archives right now, looking up everything they can on Gretchen Whitmer, Josh Shapiro. I mean, some people have even mentioned Kathy Hochul. That ain't going to happen. Trying to find this stuff out, because we're not going to have a presumptive nominee between the day that Joe resigns, which there's talk that it could potentially come this morning. That was mentioned a couple of times last night. And the convention. So it's going to be no holds barred for all these people to start going out and campaigning. And Trump can't campaign against Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Hillary Clinton, Big Mike. You can't. So he's got to completely pivot at this point. And instead of being an attack dog, Trump has got to spend his time going, this is what I'm going to do. This is my plan to reduce inflation. This is my plan to deport every freaking illegal in this country. And he just needs to start laying it all out. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. And give the people a sense of optimism until he has a true opponent, and then he can go back to being a attack dog. Last night was a complete fustercluck. The comments out of the talking heads, Van Jones said he was panicked. I forget who it was on CNN who said this was a unmitigated disaster. Joy Reid was, racist Joy Reid was talking about how her phone was blowing up and people were bailing left and right. The Democrat Party, the ones who are actually in power, are probably, here it is, probably, 6 o'clock, full-blown on the phones this morning, have been all night, going, what do we do? The best thing that could happen for Trump is that Biden's on the ticket. I've said for months, I don't believe that's going to happen. I think last night proved to everybody that he shouldn't be. But now what do you do? Here's one real scary caveat for you. Remember how Biden got the nomination in 2020? Biden lost Iowa. Biden lost New Hampshire. He was losing. And then he made a deal with the devil, James Clyburn, to twist South Carolina into his favor away from Bernie Sanders. What if the superdelegates go back and say, well, a lot of the people wanted Bernie last time. Let's run Bernie this time. You think we're a communist country now? Let him have the keys to the White House. Pinball out.